What's up, everybody? I'm John Middlekauff. You know what I need you to do. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We got content for days reacting to every NFL game all the time, every single day. Subscribe, like the videos. Let's go. What is going on, everybody? How are we doing? Hopefully everyone is having a great day. We're going to talk some sports. We're going to talk some football, and we're going to talk Nick Saban because there is a rumor out there. I even saw Colin chime in on it that Nick Saban will return. Buckle up. His former quarterback was the guy that started it. So you go, well, this guy knows Nick. We will talk about Nick Saban and his prospects to return to football. Could it be the NFL? Arch Manning. We have discussed a lot of the hype train that is Peyton and Eli's nephew, son of Cooper, the starting quarterback for the Texas Longhorns, who just attended SEC Media Day with Sark, and why the hype train that follows Arch actually benefits a lot of guys in the SEC. And then a couple quick media things. A lot of you guys have asked me my thoughts on Fox Sports 1 and their potential hiring of Dave Portnoy, Big Cat, and the Barstool Empire that sources say that might lean in to Colin's show in the morning. These are sources that I read, not Colin. And a couple other things. I saw Grant Horvat, a YouTube sensation, denied the PGA Tour because he said, I'm not playing in your event. And a lot of people were like, oh my, this is insane. So I do want to talk a couple media things that are out there. But before we dive into Saban, I got to tell you about my friends. I got to tell you about my partners, the official ticketing app of this podcast, Gametime. Best ticketing app in America. Honestly, second to none. They are the best. It does not get any better. I have used them for anything. You want to go to a game. You want to go to a concert. You want to go to an event. I just had a buddy text me, hey, just taking my girl to a concert this weekend in Los Angeles. And I did it because I used your promo code. Thanks for saving me a little money. I said, no problem. I don't even need to thank you. Just hammer that freaking promo code. Go enjoy yourself. Have some cocktails. Have some beers. You guys do what you do after. You know what I'm talking about. And don't even need a thank you. So I'm telling you right now, best ticketing app, any event you want to go to, take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code JOHN for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code JOHN for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Let's talk Nick Saban, who will be 74 years young in October. And in my experience around coaches that, now I wasn't around that many guys in their 70s, but guys in their 50s and guys in their 60s, they acted and had more energy because of the youth they were surrounded by, whether it be in college or the pros. I don't think there's any arguing. There's a stress and intensity that comes with the profession of coaching. I've said for a while now, football, and you can include college now with the money everyone's getting paid, is Wall Street on grass. Long hours, crazy money, crazy stress, ton of coffee, a lot of Adderall, not much sleep. But listen, it is a drug that a lot of people, once they get into the industry, become addicted to. And like in any industry, there is a percentage of people, and in football, that's players and coaches. In Wall Street, that's traders, that's executives, that's hedge funds, that are better than others. And obviously, Nick Saban will go down as, in my opinion, the greatest college coach I've ever seen. And you could put him on the short list in terms of basketball, football, and men's and women's sports as one of, if not the greatest college coach of all time. Right up there with John Wooden, the Coach K's, the Gino Auriemmas, you name it. He's as good as it gets. So when you're that good, until the day you die, people discuss, once you've retired, about you coming back. Now, we had a 3-and-out call with everyone behind the scenes, and we were BSing. If you win a couple championships in college athletics, right? If you win 2 Super Bowls in the NFL, if you win multiple World Series, if you win 2 NBA championships, you're freaking made man, you're a legend, right? I would say in college football, for example, Dabo, Kirby, guys that have won multiple championships, you basically are on scholarship at your school. You immediately become, up until now, Nick's gone, but highest paid guy. You basically run the school. You answer to nobody. You've earned that. One championship, you get a lot of juice, but hey, we've seen people win a championship and people, you win two, it's like you're untouchable. Nick Saban has seven national championships. That might as well be the equivalent of like 20. Think about the way Jay Wright is treated in terms of like the Knicks should be all over Jay Wright. Duke basketball should be all over Jay Wright. North Carolina should hire Jay Wright. And it's like, yeah, they probably should. And he's like, no, I'm good. But he's treated like he's John Wooden or Coach K. That's the power of the two. Obviously, Coach K won more and John Wooden won a ton. I do think when you look at Nick Saban and when he got out, obviously the changing landscape impacted him. And there are more question marks still than answers, right? In the NFL, we can bitch and moan and people can have conversations about contracts, guaranteed money, what franchise drafts you, what franchise or GM you're dealing with, who's coaching you. Obviously, there are a lot of variables, but the rules are very black and white, right? If you're drafted in this slot, this is what it pays. If you play this position and are this good, give or take, this is what you make. There's a hard salary cap. In college football, I have no clue what's going on. I was told that it's going to go to revenue sharing. It's going to go to a salary cap. No one has any clue. There's now going to be regulations on NIL. Bullshit. I feel like it's still completely the wild, wild west. And Nick Saban, who didn't dominate that era, who was already old, like if Nick Saban was 50, he just would have adapted. But he was older, and he said, I'm out. And let's face it, the elephant in the room, too, was Alabama's AD last year put out a tweet essentially begging for money. Alabama is not equipped like the University of Texas with unlimited funds. So you are at a disadvantage in this modern day game, and he realized it and he got out. But now Greg McElroy says that he's coming back. I watched Lane Kiffin with Paul Feinbaum that says football is worse off with Nick not coaching. When you watch him talk, he's still really sharp. Obviously, his football knowledge is elite, and we are better off with Nick Saban out of the chair at ESPN and coaching football. I did a little digging, text a couple people that would have a pretty good idea, and from my recon, I think I'm taking an educated guess that Nick Saban is in the ballpark of $5-6 million is what ESPN pays him to work College Game Day and obviously do some hits, which clearly takes a lot less mental and physical toll on him than coaching a football program, right? So it's a much easier life, though it's for way less money. And let's face it, way less juice. I mean, when you're the head coach at the most important program, you are typically the number one story in the sport. And now he just gives his opinions on the stories. Well, if he does say something important, he then becomes a story, but he no longer is under the microscope. He kind of has a part of holding the microscope and talking about what's going on. I saw a Coward today that said, what about the Cowboys? Brian Schottenheimer, one and done, and then go after Jerry Jones. I have a hard time seeing Nick Saban at 74 years old, a guy who's accumulated an ungodly amount of money over the last 15 years, answering to Jerry Jones, who is a decade older than him and clearly coming down the home stretch and pretty addicted to power. And if you look at the Cowboys hiring practices, beside Bill Parcells, 20 years ago, in Jerry's 70s and 80s, he has done the opposite of hiring a guy like Nick Saban, right? Jason Garrett, Wade Phillips, even Mike McCarthy was kind of down and out. Paid him $35 million over 5 years. Nick Saban would have laughed at that if someone put that in front of his face at Alabama 6 years ago, let alone now. Let's face it, Brian Schottenheimer, while compared to rest of society, makes a lot of money. Relative to coaches, I think it's fair to guess Brian Schottenheimer's a bottom 5 paid coach in the NFL in terms of head coaches, and rightfully so. He has no head coaching experience, and no one else was offering him a head coaching job. So Jerry actually got a cheap version of, I think, what he hopes, Mike McCarthy. Nick Saban's not going to the Cowboys. Nick Saban also isn't coming back to college football unless Even if he was interested, it would have to be the best overall job, which I think in this modern day landscape, you'd argue would be the University of Texas, where his guy, Steve Sarkisian, just got a massive contract because when Nick retired, he said, no, I'm good. So what happened? He got a massive extension. And as multiple people have said within the college football world, that these guys with 40, 50, $60 million buyouts, that's just the cost of paying a guy to leave. That's not going to happen as much anymore. Why? Because a lot of that money is now being put toward and forwarded to, and rightfully so, the players. So I don't envision Nick Saban coming back. I feel Nick Saban's going to ride off into the sunset, do college game day for the next several years, enjoy himself, still get to be around the program, but relax while he still gets to make some money. But the notion that Nick Saban's going to come back, a lot of people have also disputed that. One being A.J. McCarron, I saw on the interweb today. I actually don't think there's a fit out there, even if he was interested. God, I'm fired up. The British Open is here. The biggest names in golf teeing it up across the pond to chase history, the game's original major. Want to make some cash while watching people play golf? You can by betting on the action at Royal Portrush with DraftKings Sportsbook. From the opening round through Championship Sunday, DraftKings Sportsbook has you covered with live betting, player props, and so much more. If you've never bet on golf before, it's easier than you think. Just pick something simple like a golfer to win the tournament. Rory McIlroy. Can he win his second major of the year? This is where he grew up. Last time it did not go well. He missed the cut. I do think Rory's going to be a major factor. John Rahm playing really well. Scotty Scheffler. Can he finally break through? You can also bet top 10s, top 20s, parlay them together. Does not get any easier. Here's something special for first-timers. New DraftKings customers. Bet $5 to get $150 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use the code JOHN. That's code JOHN for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Arch Manning. The hype on this guy's second to none, which is cool. Like, part of the business I'm in, like, I like hype. And sometimes it's kind of fake, and other times it's like, is Trevor Lawrence the best prospect in the last 20 years? How good of a prospect is Caleb Williams? What is Cam Ward, number 1 overall pick? Why is no one talking about him? And then you get Arch, who is spoken about like he's his uncle. Not Eli, but Peyton. And he's played 2 games against nobodies. And that's not his fault. That's the nature of having that last name. That's the nature of playing at Texas. It's the nature of being a huge recruit. That's the nature of, in this day and age, of sitting in college, which is unheard of. Most guys that have to play 1 year as a backup immediately transfer, let alone 2. But do you know who it actually benefits in the SEC? You know, we have had years where the SEC has been loaded in terms of defenses. Ton of NFL guys at all these programs. But the quarterback play has been like, not great. I'd argue this year coming into the season, it's freaking loaded. DJ Lagway, who has a chance to resurrect the University of Florida. Lenoris Sellers, who down the stretch of that season last year at South Carolina looked freaking awesome. Obviously, Nussmeier, who at one point in time last year was like, hey, if this guy comes out, he might be a top 20 pick, returns to school. You have John Mateer, who I'll be honest, a couple years ago, never heard of. Most of you hadn't either. Then he started last year at Washington State and it was awesome. And then Oklahoma paid him in the transfer portal and hired their offensive coordinator and paid them both a lot of money. And now I was in the car the other day listening to Sirius XM College, and someone who's around the program was like, I'm not comparing this guy to Baker. That's an unfair amount of hype to put on this guy. But in terms of the juice and the excitement he's given this locker room, they love this guy. So I'm like, damn. And we had on his former coach, who's now at Wake Forest, who said they desperately tried to keep him back when he was the head coach. And then there's Marcel Reed, who's like this dynamic dual threat guy at Texas A&M, which is going to have a loaded roster. That all these guys are legitimate NFL prospects. And the difference of these guys in Arch, they've all played. Now, like Mateer transferred in to Oklahoma, but he started last year at Washington State. Right? DJ Lagway played last year as a true freshman. Garrett Nussmeier, obviously, once Jaden leaves, started all year. And I do think this class and this group, some of these guys, a couple of these names are going to be top 10 picks. There is a chance, especially if Arch doesn't even come out, we might end the season and go, that DJ Lagway, John Mateer had a better year than Arch Manning. But coming into the year, typically where it's kind of spread out, we're talking about this guy, we're talking about that guy. Arch is taking all the oxygen. He's the only guy any of us are talking about. It's like he just is the story. And I understand why the last name, but even he's like, listen, the hype's a little out of control. I played 2 games. These other guys, I mean, some of these guys are multi-year starters. And I'm just fascinated to watch the way it shapes out because I think a couple of these guys are going to have really good seasons. I think the SEC quarterback play this year is going to be fantastic. I haven't even talked about Georgia's quarterback or Alabama's quarterback. Obviously, some unknowns there. I mean, I would say these guys are better prospects. But I do think Arch is really doing these guys a favor. You know, we all have a bunch of credit cards, connections to hotels or airlines or a number of things. And I don't think we realize that those points and miles, they lose value when they collect dust. So think about this, a credit card with rewards that actually grows. Introducing the Gemini Credit Card. And with this credit card, you can earn Bitcoin or one of over 50 other cryptos instantly with no annual fee. So every time you go to the grocery store, you go to the gas station, you go out for a night on the town, you earn instant rewards deposited straight into your account. Plus, sign up now for a $200 Bitcoin bonus to kickstart your rewards. Go to Gemini.com/John to learn more and start earning today. Terms apply. Again, visit Gemini.com/JOHN now. Terms apply. The Gemini credit card is issued by WebBank. In order to qualify for the intro $200 crypto bonus, your application must be approved by June 30th, 2025. And spend $3,000 your first 90 days. Terms apply. Some exclusions apply to instant rewards in which rewards are deposited when the transaction posts. This content is not investment advice, and trading crypto involves risks. For more details on rates, fees, and other Gemini credit card terms, see rates and fees. Go to Gemini.com/John, John, to learn more and start earning today. Okay, a couple quick media things. You know, forever, if you had a television show or a radio show on a big channel, right? Where I grew up, if you had a radio show on KNBR, if you had a sports radio show on ESPN or Fox, if you had a television show on one of the major networks, a sitcom or whatever, it didn't guarantee success because still, like, a lot of people have gone through ESPN over the years. Like guys like Colin and Dan Patrick were just better than 99% of them, right? And they would have succeeded anywhere they went. So that is never going to change. But there was a built-in platform before, especially like when I was a kid. If you got a job at a major newspaper, you had a huge advantage. Why? Because it was distributed to millions of people who got to read you. And obviously there were better columnists than others. But I bet if we look back, there were some people that were kind of average that had long, lucrative careers because they got involved with the right paper. Well, those days are done. Just because I put you on a network, if you aren't talented, you not only will get exposed, nobody will watch. No one will care. I look at myself as a consumer first, right? So like the way I consume is, if you're good, I just kind of find out about you and I'll just consume you. I watch a lot of different people that would be quote unquote considered YouTubers or podcasters, right? Whether it's finance, whether it's in golf, whether it's in other sports. And some of them, like if you talk about Colin or like a Brian Windhorst, worked for a major network. And some of them, I was just watching No Laying Up's British Open preview, work for themselves. And you can cut through the noise and make a lot of money as an independent nowadays, which was extremely difficult 20, 30, 40 years ago. Obviously, YouTube and the podcast world / social media has helped change the game. But if someone becomes big now, let's use Dave Portnoy or Big Cat with Barstool, who are now rumored to go to Fox Sports, who just fired half their shows. Just because I put a show on Fox Sports, it does not guarantee that anyone's going to watch. Why? Because I'm a good example. I watch content. If you're not good, I'm not going to give you my time. I don't just have two options. I have 500. I can watch a million different things. I can listen to a million different things. That used to not be the case. So the power of an individual like Dave, who created a brand off literally just eating pizza, and a lot of people watch, men and women, or Pardon My Take, that gets millions of people to listen every single episode. It's not because, oh, I just heard Pardon My Take because I was on the main network. There is no main network. You have to actively seek them out. That's why I really appreciate and value everyone that listens or watches my show. You have to actively come to me. You're not just going to find me of like, just saw Middlekauff on CBS. That's not going to happen. So when I see that Fox Sports blew out these shows, which I'm not trying to be a dick because it's hard, and hell, if you would have put me in one of those shows, probably would have failed too, just didn't get anyone to watch. Where when you hire these guys, you give yourself an opportunity to bring an audience that watches everything these guys do. When you put Colin somewhere, people gravitate towards you. It's why you can say whatever you want about Stephen A. He doesn't know what's going on in the draft. He screws things up about the NFL. All those things are true. He has proven, like, when you put him on different platforms, people go there. We see it with Shannon Sharpe. What happened when Shannon left Fox and skipped? Show fell off a cliff. What did Shannon prove whenever he has a show? A lot of people watch. That's really, really important. That's really, really valuable. So when I see that Fox is going to hire Barstool, I go, makes a lot of sense. I would do the same thing if I was sitting in their shoes. Because paying these former athletes, some of the numbers that I heard, millions of dollars to do these shows where 60, 70,000 people are watching is just moronic business. And pulling the plug to go into business with Barstool, which honestly set the tone. Like, the business I'm in now exists largely because of them. I mean, let's face it, they set the tone in this industry. Them and maybe Bill Simmons from a podcast perspective. I remember when Colin started The Volume, one of his first calls, and he talked about this openly. I remember him telling me this. He called Erica, who was Dave Portnoy's CEO, because that was the business we were going to try to emulate, because they had figured out a way to monetize this world. And I just think that, like, when I saw this story, not only was I not shocked, my first reaction was like, yeah, it's probably going to work. You will get a huge bump in quote unquote ratings. You will get people to pay attention. And I was on a text thread today with some friends. It's like, how are they going to not swear? It's like, I don't know. I swear all the time. I went on Colin's show, and guess what? I didn't swear for a couple hours. It's like, you can figure it out. It's not that difficult. And honestly, maybe they can license it out where they allow him to do that like they do Pat McAfee. Pat McAfee is a good example. People like Pat McAfee. If you get on the internet, everyone seems to hate him. It's like, everyone I meet in the real world all have good things to say. All enjoy his show. All are entertained by it. And I just think sometimes you got to be careful about what's said on social media and what happens in real life, especially on Twitter. And that's where I think kind of the media world got lost down this rabbit hole for a long time. There are some benefits to the speed in which, I guess, news breaks, but in terms of trying to gauge interests or what matters in terms of putting on a show, which I think for a long time would shock people, played a huge, or had a very influential pull, was, we'll look back as one of the dumbest business moves in the history of American media. But my first take would be, I bet it works. And I bet they have success doing this. And I bet it turns out to be a win-win. The other story that went pretty viral was Grant Horvat, who, for those of you that don't know who that is, it's hard for me to give like a comp for him. He's basically this internet golfer who is just a sensation. He's an independent individual who does videos where he plays with either other pros, he partners with Phil Mickelson, and he also plays with these two guys called the Bryan Bros, and they play courses that the PGA plays, and they try to break the cut, and millions of people watch. And he has countless sponsors who support him, / he's a co-owner. I have heard some of the numbers in which it costs to get involved with the show. Let's just say I think it's fair to say he easily has an 8-figure operation going right now. And when I say 8-figure, I'm not saying like $90 million, but he is making 8 figures. And it's very, very lucrative, successful, and I would say impactful in the world he's in. He was offered a spot, which happens in golf. They're called a sponsor invite in this golf tournament this week. Well, on the PGA Tour, when there's a major, typically they have an opposite field event, which is basically an event for a bunch of random guys trying to make it a couple big names, but for the most part is a completely irrelevant event. Now, it's not irrelevant for the people playing in the event because if you win it, it changes your career and gets you into majors. But on the totality of it, no one watches, no one's really paying attention. So they offered Grant a spot. And Grant, probably a couple months ago, filmed a YouTube with Scotty Scheffler. He asked Scotty Scheffler, he's like, I've been invited. I don't think I'm going to take it. And Scotty pleaded with him. He said, you should take it. You're not taking someone else's spot. They need you in that event. But Grant does not need the PGA Tour. He is probably making more money doing what he does, play on YouTube, than potentially every single person in this tournament this weekend called the Barracuda beside Max Homa. And let's face it, if you play professional golf, you are playing for money. That is literally the end result of what you are doing. You are playing golf tournaments trying to win as much money possible. Grant Horvat plays golf on the internet to earn money, right? I mean, that's what he does, and he's successful at it. So ultimately, he denied the PGA Tour. He said, I'm not interested because they denied him allowing to shoot YouTube videos while he played, which was never going to happen. The PGA Tour was never going to allow him to shoot YouTube videos during the tournament. Just like Grant Horvat was never going to play in this tournament because he knew they were never going to give in to those demands because they're very strict laws, right? Just like Jamar Chase can't bring a YouTube or a video crew during a game against the Baltimore Ravens on Sunday Night Football. That's not allowed. Can't happen in any of these sports. It's very black and white. Even though this tournament needs Grant more than he needs them. And I've seen a lot of people freak out, even people I respect, going, I can't believe a golf influencer would turn down the PGA Tour. Well, I agree that would be crazy if two things were true. One, Grant wanted to be on the PGA Tour, which he clearly doesn't. And two, it was an opportunity for him to make money. He would actually probably lose money if he wasted a week. Well, let's say he was shooting other stuff. It would be a net negative for him. I think people underestimate the amount of money, especially a lot of these legacy media people that are in this bubble of like what's actually going on. Hell, if I didn't do what I did and still worked in radio, I would have no clue how much commerce and business is actually done in the podcast YouTube world. But I've been in it for 10 years. Those are a lot of people that I talk to and ask questions about. So I have I would say, a better understanding than I've seen some of these reactions. Like Dave Portnoy and Barstool, they don't need Fox's money, right? They don't need to do this. This isn't something they need. They actually have leverage because clearly I would imagine Fox wants them. So what happens when you get the leverage? You get more money. And I'm not saying it's strictly a money grab. It's also cool. It's also a way to get different eyeballs. It's a way to just potentially expand your brand and grow your business. But let's not get it twisted. Dave, Big Cat, Barstool does not need to be on Fox Sports 1. But if the business deal makes sense and we can be comfortable with what we're doing, it works. Like, ultimately, Pat McAfee didn't need ESPN. At any moment, if he wanted to leave, he would be fine. Does he benefit from it? Sure. He's on ESPN2. You see him at gyms. You see him at airports. He gets benefits of, doing the All-Star game and doing different shit. But at the end of the day, him and his operation does not need them. No different here. Grant Horvat does not need the PGA Tour. Now, I'd argue if the Masters or the U.S. Open or something invited him, it would be insane from a business standpoint for him not to accept the invite. But the fucking Barracuda at Old Greenwood in Truckee, California, that is going to have no one paying attention, I don't know, because the British Open is going on and it's in the middle of summer, is not that crazy for him to turn down. I also think it's a genius PR move by him to go, hey, I'm not playing in this because they won't let me film. It actually is a story that shouldn't be a story because they were never going to let him film. He was never going to play in the event. But I will give him credit. Him and his team and whoever's, they're pretty good at this. And they created a massive story out of nothing, of something that was never going to happen. Like the Barstool FS1 story, like clearly there's a lot of substance there. This thing, if I was a betting man, probably happens. I even saw Colin tweet something out. But the Horvat thing and the reaction by a lot of the legacy journalists, it's like, guys, are you that out of the loop? What Horvat has going on and how successful his operation is? I would guess like whatever the Grant Horvat YouTube empire makes in Grant's pocket, who plays a huge role in it, where would he be valued on the PGA Tour? I bet he makes top 75 guy, top 50 guy. Like, financially, he ain't desperate. And I think that always shocks people when someone's not desperate and they go, yeah, I'm not going to do it. I'm good. Because forever, especially in the media world and the sports world, you just always say, yeah, right? Yes, yes. And obviously saying yes sometimes, even if there's not, it's hard to quantify, is this a good idea or a bad idea, can be a good tactic to approach life with. But every once in a while, it's like, yeah, this is a complete waste of my time. Okay, I don't want to do this. And I don't want to, ruin an experience for all these other guys, which are going to be resentful. It'd just be a weird operation because everyone would be looking at me funny.